Seeing the rapid growth of Xiaomi, the attitude of suppliers began to change quietly. When Lei Jun was interviewing engineer Hong Feng, Lei was asked if he knew Guo Taiming. Lei Jun admitted that he knew Guo, but Guo didn't know him. Now Guo Taiming, the founder of Foxconn, finally got to know Lei Jun. Foxconn soon became Xiaomi's OEM factory. The production line contracted by Xiaomi at Foxconn also gradually increased to multiple lines. Xiaomi began to grow rapidly. In May 2012, in response to outside world's concern about Xiaomi's hunger marketing and authenticity of orders, Xiaomi organized a factory open day event at the Nanjing Inventec factory. During the event, all production lines in the Inventec factory were displayed. These production lines can provide a production capacity of 600,000 mobile phones per month. The addition in Foxconn product lines also alleviated the shortage problem in 2012. Xiaomi 2 was also released this year. While having the hardware advantage of the first generation, it was also improved in appearance design, packaging, and other details. Xiaomi 2 sold 500,000 units in 3 minutes after it was launched. Its product lifecycle lasted until the end of 2013. At the same time, an upgrade Xiaomi 1 was launched named Xiaomi 1S, priced at 1,499 RMB yuan. 450,000 units of the Xiaomi 1S were sold out in only 5 minutes. At the end of 2012, Xiaomi announced an annual data of 7.19 million mobile phones sold and 12.6 billion RMB yuan in sales. At the end of 2012, Xiaomi announced annual data of 7.19 million mobile phones sold and 12.6 billion RMB in sales. This year, investor valued Xiaomi at $10 billion. Despite such achievements, this number didn't rank high in the domestic mobile phone market share at that time. The top few in the global mobile phone market at that time were Samsung, Apple, Huawei, LG, and Lenovo. Xiaomi was still a long way from being on the list. 2013 was a year of rapid development of global smartphones. Xiaomi, in a period of rapid development of the mobile internet, was ranking rapid progress along the Trinity route envisioned by Lei Jun. Some traditional phone manufacturers visited Xiaomi. Lei Jun also reviewed Xiaomi's methodology and business model. On July 31st of this year, a milestone product in Xiaomi's history was released in the conference room of Kingsoft Company. This was a Redmi phone that put an end to China domestic phone market's copycats. Priced at 799 RMB yuan, it had 720p screen, 8 million pixel camera, MediaTek quad-core processor, and MIUI operating system. If Xiaomi 1 was a blockbuster when it was released, the debut of Redmi was a fatal blow. The first batch of 100,000 Redmi phones with absolute product strength and marketing boost of QQ Space achieved 7.45 million reservations and finally sold out in 90 seconds. Since it was a $10 billion business, focus will naturally continue after mobile phone success. It was natural to copy it to other hardware product fields. At the beginning, Lei Jun decided to invest to incubate companies that produce smart hardware and began to devote himself to the construction of Xiaomi's ecological chain and make mobile power bank, Zimi. Zimi's subsidiary was established at that time. 10,000 mAh for RMB 69. Same recipe, average price, good quality. The first model power bank sold 3 million pieces in 3 months. It ranked first within its category in half a year. It was a familiar taste again. Xiaomi 3 was released on September 5, 2013. Sales exceed 10 million in 8 months. Xiaomi finally took the 5th place among domestic smartphone manufacturers. On the same day, the first generation Xiaomi TV, which was a product aimed at young people, was officially unveiled. Although it didn't have a debut so anticipated like previous Xiaomi products, it also laid the foundation for Xiaomi to reach the top of the TV industry in the future. The year of rapid development in 2013 was also the year when Xiaomi officially entered the international market. Hugo Barra, global vice president of Google Android, joined Xiaomi and became its vice president. He was mainly responsible for Xiaomi's international business. A week later, Manu, who had been deeply involved in the Indian e-commerce industry for years, also officially joined Xiaomi and became the general manager of Xiaomi India. it began to expand the Indian phone market. That year, Xiaomi's total revenue reached 26.5 billion RMB yuan. It increased by 110% in 1 year. Lei Jun, in the limelight, attended the 14th China Economic Person of the Year award ceremony held by CCTV at the end of 2013. In front of the public, Lei Jun made a bet with GREE chairman Dong Mingzhu that in 5 years, Xiaomi's revenue would exceed GREE's. That happened, Dong Mingzhu would pay 1 RMB to Lei Jun. This was originally a script designed for the show. However, Lei Jun was confused by Dong Mingzhu's word that she'd rather bet 1 billion RMB yuan, although GREE's revenue was 120 billion yuan at the time. Xiaomi's revenue was only a fraction of that of GREE. However, Lei Jun thought he would definitely win based on Xiaomi's rapid growth. The battle was actually a showdown between the traditional manufacturing model and the internet thinking model. In the second half of 2013, there were already ZTE, Huawei, Coolpad, Lenovo, and Meizu that also started their business online, as well as brands such as Smartisan. Under the trend of smartphone, all players wanted to get a piece of the pie. Luo Yonghao, who was nicknamed the first-generation talk show actors, founded Smartisan technology. With his strong appeal and personal charm, he once attracted a large number of fans. Huawei's new brand Honor followed regular marketing tactics, from advertising, fan carnivals, etc., which made Xiaomi feel pressure from competitors. In 2014, Xiaomi's annual sales reached 61.12 million pieces. By the third quarter, Xiaomi's market share finally reached the highest, while mobile phones topped the list that year. At the same time, they were at the forefront of Internet of Things. Lei Jun, who had long thought about Internet of Things, decided to formally establish an IoT department. The ecological chain department was also established on January 8 of the same year. Xiaomi officially began to enter the field of IoT. Zimi power bank, Huami bracelet, Redmi air purifier, Roborock sweeping robot, Xiaomi camera, Xiaomi smart plug. The viral product strategy of Xiaomi's ecological chain company copied one after another. With the emergence of the 4G era, the boom of smart hardware was finally arrived. Xiaomi has seen that Internet of Things were the general trend. The IoT department was officially included in the ecological chain department within the year. If Xiaomi in 2013 could be summarized as rapid progress, then Xiaomi in 2014 can definitely be called a peak battle. In less than 3 years, it had reached the first place in China's smartphone market and the third place in the world. According to data from a relevant institution, 2013 was the fastest growing year for smartphones in the world in recent years. 4G arrived as expected. The mobile internet era had begun. Lei Jun had proved himself with practical action that he could stood on the top of the trend and seize the opportunity of the time. Behind the unprecedented achievements, Xiaomi's morale was unprecedented high in 2014. Investors in the market also rushed to ask Lei Jun about investment matters. Everyone wanted to invest in such a company that can grasp the pulse of the times. On December 29, 2014, Lei Jun issued an open letter announcing that Xiaomi had raised $1.1 billion and would value $45 billion US. Behind the highlight moment, Xiaomi, a company now called business miracle by everyone, did not know that under the dazzling light, the biggest crisis was quietly approaching. The hidden dangers had actually appeared long ago. Everyone was inflated, including myself. Lei Jun commented on himself in this way when reviewing the market later. Although the Xiaomi 4 released in July 2014 was excellent in terms of product strength, the manufacturer that supplied touchscreen to Xiaomi unexpectedly went bankrupt due to over-reliance on Apple's order. All materials and components were piled up in the foundry. The production line could not start due to the lack of touchscreens. Xiaomi had to temporarily change suppliers. This directly led to a cliff-like drop in mobile phone production capacity in the first 3 months. This not only affected sales and profits, but also gave other manufacturers in the market an opportunity to rise up. In January 2015, Xiaomi officially released the Xiaomi Note mobile phone that impacted the high-end market. The cost effectiveness of Xiaomi at the beginning of its release was a core that helped Xiaomi break through. The inability to be high-end had also become a permanent pain in Xiaomi's development process. Although the tech specification of this phone was outstanding, with double curved glass and metal frame, hi-fi sound quality, 5.7-inch 2K screen, and flagship chip, but who could have thought a serious heating problem of Qualcomm Snapdragon 810 chip became the main reason for blocking Xiaomi's advancement. It also delayed the release of Xiaomi 5. The risk of being a Qualcomm Alpha customer finally emerged. When it rains, it pours. This year, the capital market's enthusiasm for smartphones was unprecedentedly high. There were so many smartphone brands in that period. You couldn't count them with two hands. Honor, LG Meizu, Smartisan, 360, Coolpad, etc. 2015 was called the most noisy year for China domestic mobile phones. Although at the annual meeting in January 2016, Lin Bin announced that Xiaomi's mobile phone sales in 2015 were 17 million pieces, it was still the first in the market. But in fact, Xiaomi's 15% market share was only 1% ahead of the second Huawei and less than 2% ahead of the third Apple. Oppo, the invisible king in the sinking market, and Vivo had a combined market share of 16%. 70 million units were already lower than Xiaomi's original target of 80 million units. Xiaomi was under siege in China. Big problems had also emerged in the Indian market. Management's wrong decision on the Indian market led to Xiaomi's inability to digest 1 billion yuan of the mobile phone inventory in India. Being trapped internally and externally, Xiaomi fell into a crisis after 14 years of glory. After calm thinking, Lei Jun found out that seemingly accidental problems that Xiaomi was facing then, supply chain collapse, quality problem of Qualcomm chips, product R&D problems, management methods in international market, etc., cannot be simply attributed to accidental external factors. These actually reflect that when Xiaomi was expanding rapidly, internal team management did not keep up the company's development. Xiaomi needed a major change. A deep self-reflection could turn things around. Can it be changed? How to change had become a big problem. At the annual meeting in early 2016, Lei Jun comforted everyone on not reaching 80 million sale target. He already started to act. In that 1 year, on one hand, he persuaded Li Wanqiang to end his vacation and return to Xiaomi. On the other hand, he found a chief financial officer, Zhou Shouzi. Zhou's joining and Li Wanqiang's return made full preparations for Xiaomi in 2016, the most critical year in its history. However, the question of whether to replace the head of Xiaomi mobile phone hardware team still troubled Lei Jun. In fact, since the second half of 2015, the sales volume of Xiaomi mobile phone declined significantly. Xiaomi's product cycle and supply rhythm were obviously chaotic. There were always popular phone releases, but they were out of stock due to various reasons. The problem of supply chain accumulation was getting more and more serious. The Xiaomi 5 released in February 2016 was still the same. The ability of the mobile phone team was obviously out of touch with the sheer size of Xiaomi. At the weekly core purchasing meeting, the three departments, supply chain, production, and sales, actually used 3 Excel spreadsheets for comparison. There was not even a complete information system inside the company. Under the crisis, the Xiaomi supply chain team also inadvertently offended a senior executive of Samsung Semiconductor China because of its arrogance during the negotiation, which led to Samsung's decision to no longer supply Xiaomi with the most advanced AMOLED LED screen at the time. Although after the incident, Lei Jun went to Samsung headquarters several times to apologize and hope to resume screen supply to Xiaomi. And although Samsung finally gave in after several months of negotiations, the supply would not start until 2 years later. In other words, Xiaomi's phone would not be able to use the best screens during that period. Under heavy pressure, Lei Jun finally decided to make personnel adjustments. With the approval of board of directors and personal communication, Zhou Guangping, who laid a solid foundation for Xiaomi's first 5 years of glory, was no longer responsible for the management of the mobile phone department. Lei Jun began to be responsible for Xiaomi's mobile phone business and supply chain management himself.